Have you ever looked up at the sun and felt a sense of permanence? Like it's always been there and always will be. Well, what if one day it just stopped? That's exactly what happened on a Tuesday. Not a dramatic explosion, no apocalyptic warnings, just a freeze. The sun, a golden disk of fire, hung motionless in the sky. Birds were frozen mid-flight, their wings outstretched against a silent, blue canvas. Waves on the ocean became solid, glassy sculptures. Time for the entire world had ceased to exist, except for one place. The city of Ethel. Here, cars still hummed along the streets, people bustled on their way to work, and the digital clocks on every corner continued their relentless ticking. We were the anomaly, the last pocket of flowing time in a static universe. At first, no one noticed. The news channels just went dead. International calls wouldn't connect. It took a few hours for the collective realization to dawn on us: we were alone. Panic, as you can imagine, was the first response. The city's borders were an invisible wall. Step 1 foot past the Welcome to Ethel sign, and you'd freeze solid, becoming another statue in the world's silent museum. We were trapped in a bubble. Scientists from Ethel University were the first to put a name to it: the Chronos Anomaly. They theorized that some unknown event had halted the temporal flow of the planet, and for reasons no one could fathom, our city was shielded. But why us? Were we chosen? Saved? Or were we simply a cosmic accident? A glitch in the grand design of whatever had happened? The questions hung heavier than the frozen sun in the sky. The government established the Temporal Oversight Committee, or TALK, to manage the situation. Rations were introduced, not because we were running out, but to control the chaos. A new calendar was created. Day 1, Day 2, Day 3, after stasis. My name is Kalen, and I was a data analyst before the world stopped. Now, I'm not sure what I am. Like everyone else, I was just trying to adapt to this new, surreal reality. Life in Ethel developed a strange rhythm. We knew the outside world was still there, perfectly preserved, waiting. We could see it. Just beyond the city limits, a delivery truck was forever inches from crossing the line, its driver a statue with a look of mild surprise. The children were the most fascinating. To them, this was normal. They drew pictures of the frozen birds and made up stories about the day the sun went to sleep. They didn't carry the weight of the world we'd lost. Then, the messages began. Faint, ethereal whispers that seemed to ride on the very air itself. They weren't words, more like feelings, images, broadcast directly into our minds. A sense of peace, a feeling of being watched, a profound, overwhelming curiosity. Not everyone experienced them, but those who did, like me, started to gather. We called ourselves the Echoes. The talk, of course, was terrified. They branded us as delusional, a threat to the fragile stability they'd built. They couldn't explain the phenomenon, so they tried to suppress it, but the whispers grew stronger. They started to form coherent thoughts, not in any language we knew, but in the universal language of mathematics and geometry. Prime numbers, Fibonacci, sequences, complex fractals blooming in our minds. It was a signal. An intelligence was trying to communicate. Was this the force that stopped time? Was it a warning or an invitation? The Echoes believed it was the latter. We began working in secret, trying to decipher the message, to answer the call. I used my skills as a data analyst to find patterns in the whispers, charting the sequences, mapping the mental images. We discovered that the signals were strongest at a specific point in the city, the old obsidian spire at the very center of Ethel. It was an ancient, monolithic structure that had been there long before the city was built around it, a relic from a forgotten age. The talk had it cordoned off, declaring it structurally unsafe. But we knew better. It was the antenna. Our plan was risky. We had to get to the spire and somehow amplify our own thoughts to send a message back. To say, we hear you. We are here. We didn't know what would happen. Would our response break the stasis? Would it erase our city from existence? Or would it be the key to understanding why we, the people of Ethel, were chosen? Under the unblinking gaze of the frozen sun, we moved through the quiet streets of the last living city on Earth. A small group of us, the Echoes, made our way to the heart of the mystery. As we approached the obsidian spire, the whispers in my mind became a roar, a symphony of cosmic data. The air crackled with an unseen energy. The spire was a single, smooth piece of black rock, impossibly tall, absorbing all light. At its base, there was a small, circular indentation, a perfect fit for a human hand. The patterns in my mind suddenly converged, showing me this exact spot. It was a lock, and I think my mind was the key. I reached out, my hand trembling. This was it. The moment of truth for Ethel, for humanity. We were the last question mark in a world of periods, and as my palm made contact with the cold, ancient stone, the world didn't end. It began to change. The whispers in my head stopped. They were replaced by a single, clear thought, a voice that was both ancient and new. It said, "The test is over. The observation is complete. Welcome, humanity, to the next stage." The frozen sun in the sky began to move. Not across the sky, but it started to pulse, a soft, rhythmic beat of light. Time hadn't restarted. Something else was happening. The fabric of our reality, the very bubble that protected Ethel, began to shimmer. The static world outside our city didn't just wake up. It started to dissolve, pixel by pixel, into a river of pure light and information, flowing towards the spire, towards us. We weren't the survivors of an apocalypse. We were the seed. The entire planet, our entire history, was a simulation, a crucible designed to see if a species could evolve past its own self-destruction and reach out to the cosmos. The Chronos anomaly wasn't a catastrophe. It was graduation day. The city of Ethel, our little bubble of time, was the ark, carrying the consciousness of a species ready to be born into a much, much larger universe. The frozen horizon wasn't an end. It was the starting line. What happened next? That's a story for another time. The universe is a lot bigger than we ever imagined, and our journey was just beginning. Thank you so much for watching and coming along on this journey with us. If you enjoyed this story and want to find out what happens to the people of Ethel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We have so many more stories to tell. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.